this is my submission for this year's Axe Cordwood Challenge. If you're not familiar with the Cordwood Challenge, the basic idea is to cut firewood using only an axe. You can cut a full cord or more, or you can just do a rick. And so I'll put some links in the video description to videos that explain more about it. And there's also a great little Facebook group, so if you're interested, definitely check that out. But yeah, the basic idea is to cut firewood with an axe. There's some mini challenges. You can do some hewing. There's the big log challenge, kind of self-explanatory. There's the one tree challenge where you fell and completely process a tree in one day. But for this year, so this is my second year doing the challenge, and this year I cut 2.5 cords of wood so far. not promising to stop, but that's what I've done to this point. So I've got the 2 cords that you see here, plus another half cord in a barn. All right, here I am with my 2 full cords of wood. There's the one frame with 3 ricks, and the other frame with 3 ricks. And so please excuse the messy barn. We're not going to look at that too much. What I just want to show you guys is this stack of wood, and I'm going to call this half a cord. So this is ash from the winter chopping, and it's pretty tightly packed. It's 4 feet high, but the footprint is not quite 4x4. But I'm just going to round up because I rounded down the other full cords I chopped. So yeah, I'm going to call this half a cord and add it to my total chop for 2023. I did almost all of it, 95% with one axe, which is this axe. So, you know, it's fun to use lots of different axes, but this year what I wanted to do is to try and do it, almost all of it, with just the one axe. I think that's kind of in the original spirit of the challenge, which is to gain proficiency with a particular tool. And both this axe and I, myself, are a little bit worse for the wear this year. So I'm gonna talk about that. Basically, kind of a public service announcement / safety meeting. I did manage to catch a glance on my shin, so I'm going to give the details of that and some safety pointers based on what I should have done versus what I actually did. This is where I got myself with the axe, and you know, I spent 8 hours in the emergency room, got some stitches. It wasn't a lot of fun, so I can't recommend it. While I was waiting to get stitched up, after the nurse cleaned it up, I snapped a photo. So if you don't want to see that, maybe because I'm going to show the photo. You know, it's not that bad, but if you don't want to see it, skip ahead. Maybe 10 seconds or so. All right, so that's what it looks like, and yeah, I'll give the details of the accident, and then I'll talk a little bit about what my axe went through. So here's the situation. I was trying to take down an elm that had died of Dutch elm disease, but it's very close in here, very dense stand of white cedar, and I cut it down and then it hung up. So I knew it was going to hung up, and my plan was to bucket or bring it down in sections. So here's the first section I took, and then the trouble came here when I was making a second cut to bring it down further. What happened was that I was chopping here, I was standing somewhere around here, and when I chopped and missed, it glanced and went into my leg. Now I heard it. I took a moment to realize that I heard it hit something. I took a moment to realize, oh, that was my leg. I probably won't ever forget that sound, which was it's stopping in my shin bone. But fortunately, it did. It did stop. It didn't really go in much further, so it really could have been a lot worse. So I was pretty lucky. So after I heard it, then I had to take a breath and look and see what my situation was. And fortunately, it wasn't that bad. but there's other issues. My phone was pretty much dead. I was alone in the woods. I didn't have my first aid kit on me, and the reason was I was pretty close to my house, so it wasn't too hard for me to walk myself out. Fortunately, I'm going to go over what I did wrong and what I could have done differently. So there's three main things. So one is that I didn't clear enough of an area out. So I did cut a bunch of trees out of my way, but a lot of the trees, I cleared trees around right where I was falling, but then I didn't clear enough where I ended up chopping after the tree had hung up, and I was now chopping over here instead of back over there. So there was some brush by my feet that was in the way. I've already kicked some of it out, but I didn't before, and this tree here is in my way. So it meant that I was standing in the wrong spot. So, and that's the second part, is that when you're chopping, you want to make sure that your leg is not in the way, in the path of the axe if it glances. And so glances are at least somewhat predictable. So if you're chopping here and it glances, right, it's gonna go that way. So I should not have been standing in the path of a likely glance. I should have been standing more over here, and I wasn't. And then the other thing that made the situation dangerous was that I was chopping high. So I was chopping high to bring the tree down in sections, but what I should have done and what I'm going to do now is just get the winch and drag the tree back until it falls. That's just much safer. It's probably easier. So that would have been a much better approach. And the reason that chopping high is dangerous is because if you're chopping low and it glances, if you're chopping low enough, it'll go into the dirt before it hits you. Whereas if you're chopping high, it's not going, it won't, there's nothing in the way. And so if there's nothing between the axe and your leg, it's going to hit your leg. And the saving grace for me was that I knew that the situation was a bit dangerous, so I was trying to be careful, but so I wasn't swinging, as hard as I could. Yeah, there's a whole laundry list of things in there that it would be smart to change. Keep your phone with you with a charge. Carry a first aid kit. Don't chop high. Chop low. It's so much safer. Pay attention to where you're standing. Make sure you're not standing in the path of any glances, and make sure you have enough room to swing. And so, especially the parts about chopping high and keeping out of the way of glances, that's been gone over before. Ben Scott has a great video on it. I know I watched it before I had the accident, and so I watched it again. I'm like, yep, there it all is. So I'm going to link to that, and that's something, yeah, definitely to pay attention to. All right, so that's the story about how I hurt myself, basically by not following good procedures that are safe. So I hope that serves as a reminder to keep you guys from going through what I went through, or potentially much worse. Yeah, it's just really important to try and be safe when you're chopping wood with an axe. All right, so let's a little bit more about the axe. So first of all, it's a Dayton unstamped. I don't know the manufacturer or even what country it came from. I just like the look of it. It's got I filed an 18-degree primary bevel. There's a little secondary bevel there that I haven't measured. And the handle is green ash, which is a species, Fraxinus, pennsylvanicus. I'm not talking about how fresh the wood is. And it's, at least when I started, it was like 76 centimeters long, so about 30 inches, which is a good all-purpose handle length, at least I find. And the handle is made of green ash, so that's what I've been working with a lot. A lot of this wood is green ash, and it's because we're right now well into the emerald ash borer outbreak, and they're all dying. So I was very interested to see how a green ash handle would hold up. So that was one of my reasons for trying to do as much as I could with this axe, is just to really put the green ash to the test, because it's hard to find out specific information about this species in particular and how it performs as an axe handle would. And yeah, it's been through some stuff, but overall it's held up pretty well. It's got a collar on it, and that happened when I was, it started to get some damage around the collar area, which handles often do, and I kind of let it go to see what would happen. And I kind of regretted doing that. I should have protected it with a collar as soon as I saw I was getting damaged, because then a big chunk came off. Oh no! Damn it! Busted. Ah, that sucks. Well, it'll keep working. Oh, this is why you get a collar. Anyway, yeah, so I'm being a little precious about the handle. It was able to keep working once I carved the shards away. And then I got this rawhide collar, which I just made out of the dog toy. It's just rolled up rawhide, beef rawhide as a dog toy. Yeah. Okay, so the axe is back in commission. I did the rawhide collar wrap that Stephen at home at Skill Cult has done, but I used the gluing that idea that Kevin Kevich had. So yeah, basically to fix that chunk I took off here. I wish I sort of put in some filler here, because I'm worried that without backing this is going to tear sooner than it otherwise would have, but I am pretty confident that this wrap is going to minimize further damage, at least for a while, to the collar area of the axe. Once I've got the collar on, it's held up, and yeah, the other thing that happened is that I've got this chip out of the palm swell, and that happened when I rehung it. So I had to rehang it twice, probably because it wasn't quite dry when I initially carved and hung the handle the first time, and then of course over the course of the winter, it being it ended up spending time in heated indoors, and so it dried out enough that I had to rehang it. And sometimes when you do that, you're pounding on the bottom of the palm swell to seat the head, and a chip broke off. I had initially done like quite, I think, a very nice looking fix. I used these bamboo barbecue skewer pegs that I made to secure it, but when I hung the head again, I pushed the chip off a little bit again, and so the second time I just jammed it on with some more glue and just sanded it down to take away the rough spots. So the repair is not as nice as it was, but it works, and that's the important part. Anyway, despite the tribulations, I'm happy with how this handle turned out, and I'm happy to keep using green ash to make handles. I think it performs on a par with other species of ash that are known to be good for handles, so white ash and European ash, and at least close enough. It works. And it feels great. So something I want to point out quickly is that a caveat is that I'm selecting green ash that's grown on well-drained sites. So green ash often grows on swampy sites, and ash that grows on swampy sites, according to the wood database and also according to Rod Cumberland, who knows a lot about axe handles, tends to be lighter and probably weaker wood. So apparently it's good for musical instruments. It's probably not that good for striking implements. So that's something to watch out for. Is it's not enough to know just the species. You have to know a little bit more about the properties of wood if you want really a guaranteed good handle. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. So while I was walking the dog I found this piece of ash that someone lost out the back of their truck on our road, and there's a good opportunity to show something else that's important. So I've got the axe handle propped up here, and here's this piece of ash, and one thing to look at is how tight the growth rings are here compared to this. So I'm also choosing ash that's growing a little bit faster, and that tends to lead to stronger wood, basically because you have the same amount of early wood every year, and if you don't have a lot of growth, then you have a lot more early wood than late wood, and early wood has more pores, and so it's lighter and weaker. So that's something to keep in mind, is you want to select ash that has reasonably widely spaced growth lines, and same for hickory and any other ring pore species like that. So yeah, this is a piece of ash that I would not expect to be very strong. So it's just as well it's going for firewood. And it feels great. That's the one nice thing about ash, is it's lighter, and after if you use it for a while, at least from my experience, it grows on you because it feels good in the hand. It's a little, it's lighter, it's whippier, it absorbs shock a little better. It just feels good. The downside with ash is that it's not as tough as hickory. I mean, almost very few woods are, but it's not as tough, and so that's what happened with the chip coming off in the collar area. That just doesn't take as much of that kind of abuse as hickory will, and so I think if you've got an ash handle and you're really working it, it's a good idea to put a collar on it, even more so than you would with hickory. So anyway, very happy with this axe. Happy with the handle. I like the shape of it and the feel of it. It's not my most refined handle, but it works well. It's a great work axe handle. And this is a great work axe. This is the new frame I built this year, and I'll talk a little bit about that because that was kind of an interesting project. I don't know if you can see down there, but I got out the timber auger, and I got out the adze, and had fun with that, working on these white cedar posts and beams.
So here's the new frame with all the wood stacked in it, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. And I had fun making it. I think it would be pretty neat to do, you know, a more robust version with more consistent measurements and actually put a roof on it. Yeah, I think making a little woodshed kind of based on this general concept would be a neat project. So hopefully someday I'll have a chance to do that.
All right, so that's my submission for the 2023 Axe Cordwood Challenge. I'm very happy with how much I got done. I'm happy with this axe. And I realized, so I've already started editing the video together. I realized I didn't have any chopping footage. So I'm going to add a few minutes to the end of me using this axe to cut a notch in a big Manitoba maple log so you can see the axe in action. And if you made it this far, thanks for watching. And if you're chopping, be careful, be safe.